Wow, we're seeing the lowest unemployment numbers in 49 years. Wow, heck, that's so far away. I don't even remember. I was too busy, learning how to walk than worrying about getting jobs. But it sounded would have been easy back then too. So what does this mean? Are we all, happily employed, busy, working all day long? Well, let's see what the news headlines are saying. CNN Business says U.S. economy has added jobs for 103 straight months. Unemployment rate falls to 3.6%. The New York Intelligencer says unemployment rate hits 50-year low, yet wage growth stays tepid. The Wall Street Journal says jobless rate falls to lowest in nearly 50 years as employers ramp up hiring. In a small print, it says stronger than expected April job gains point towards solid growth, though fewer Americans are working. And finally, MarketWatch says the latest drop in the unemployment rate was for the wrong reasons. So there's some rumblings that amongst these phenomenal unemployment numbers, there's a shrinking labor pool and an anemic wage growth, right? So we have to kind of get the data and make up our own mind, understand what's going on for ourselves. So this is kind of the final product we'll do. We're going to be using 3 different data sets or data sources to get here. In blue, you have the unemployment rate. In green, you have the S&P 500. And in red, you have the labor participation. So really important, all 3 phenomenally important numbers, and that's how we're going to get. So what are the reasons? Some people say, a lot of the jobs that are added right now are low paid, of poor quality. Others people are saying baby boomers are now retiring, leaving the job pool. There's even, the economy is strong that, some families are deciding to stay at home and raise their family. So we have an income earner that's also removed from the labor pool. So all the stuff is fascinating, and we can speculate about this all day long. Again, the point here is to roll up our sleeves, find the right data sets, the right data sources, the official one, and I'm going to show you exactly where to get that. And of course, chart this so we can understand it, visualize it, and understand it. This is the Hippocratic oath of the data analyst and the data scientist. Is we want to keep things simple, transparent, and reproducible. Meaning that what I show you here, you'll be able to reproduce it on your own system with your own Jupyter notebook, using the same data, and come up with your own conclusion. Try to analyze it, try to understand it. So welcome to another Viral ML show. My name is Manuel Amonatigi. So you can see a new look on the website. I'm going to be rolling out a new website hopefully in the next 2 weeks, let's say. I have my new book that's out. That's now available on Amazon. I recommend it because it's totally in line with what we're talking about here today. It's called The Little Book of Fundamental Indicators. I share my favorite hands-on market analysis, fundamental indicators, and the data sets that go with it. Things like unemployment, but also the S&P 500, the CPI, the VIX, all this critical stuff if you want to know what's going on around you in the financial world. And I also have some exciting announcement to make at the end of the video, so please stay tuned. So we're going to get 3 different data sets, so we have to go to 3 different data sources. We're going to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics to get the unemployment number. This is the official site. This is where I like to get it. All the links to get to this data are in the Jupyter notebook. You'll see right here. The 3 different ones are here. I'm going to walk you through how to do that right now. The labor statistics is super easy. You'll see, a from and to. In the from, put as much data as you want. I would go as far back. It looks like you can go up to 1948, and it should default to today. Hit go. And if you scroll down, you see a chart. It'll show you what you're going to get. That's pretty cool. But there's also this matrix of the data. So the easiest way, instead of mucking around with the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet, simply just copy and paste from year all the way down to the last number. It's that simple. Copy that and paste it in a Notepad++ or Sublime, whatever you're using, and then save that as a CSV file. You can follow the same naming convention I use, which is this one. You can just cut and paste this one, save it that name, or save it something else. Just put it in. Make sure you know what folder you're putting in, because we're going to have to put the 2 other data sets in the same folder and a Jupyter notebook in the same folder. Next, we are going to go to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and we're going to get the civilian labor force participation rate. It's called CIFPAR for short. Super easy to do as well. Hit the max button, and here it looks like we can go all the way back to 1948 as well to today, which is good because it includes April numbers, with what we want. So, and hit the download button. You have some choices. Go with CSV, and of course, make sure it's in the same folder. And finally, we're going to go to my favorite place to get data, finance.yahoo.com or Yahoo Finance. In there, type #GSPC, and that's a symbol for the S&P 500 index. Hit the historical tab, hit the historical the time period range, hit max to get as much data as we can. Once again, done, apply, and then download. And that will download, a comma delimited file with a date, open, high, low, close, adjusted close, and volume. We're only going to use the date and the adjusted close in this video. Okay, so we have all the data we need. I'm going to assume you put it in the right folder. We're ready to go. I'm going to start running the notebook and kind of telling you what's going on here. So as usual, the caret gspc.csv, which is the S&P 500, we're going to cast that date to a real date time. Matplotlib is going to need it. And we're going to drop all the columns except the date and adjusted close, and we're going to change the adjusted close to the S&P 500 underscore close, and we're going to take the percentage change. I don't think we're using the percentage change here, but it's a good one to have because it kind of takes a difference from one price to the next. It ignores everything else, the history. So it ignores the price, and it changes the scale. Instead of a dollar scale, it's now a percentage change scale, so you can compare it amongst different products. It's not ideal, but it's the easiest thing you can do because it's just one little pandas function call, .pct underscore change. It's that simple. Now for the unemployment numbers, we have to do a little bit of work. So if you run this, you'll see it looks exactly like it did when we got it from the site. That format's not going to work, right? We want to have this normal format with an actual date time column, not this, header with the month and a column with the year. So we're going to first of all translate our months to numerical months. And I'm testing it out with February. It returns 2. It's good. Then we are going to we're going to pivot the data so that the month not only is a numerical number, but it's also a column, the year in a column, and the unemployment. So once you have this, right, we went from this matrix style to a data frame style with 3 columns. We're still not quite there. We now need to kind of concatenate the year and a month and add a date and make it its own field and also cast it as a date time, which we do here. Here we're simply adding 01 to everything. We're assuming the first of the month, but you could do whatever you want. It's arbitrary. Run this, and now we have a format that's exactly like what we got from Yahoo Finance, and we even get the percentage change. So now we're going to let's plot the unemployment numbers with the S&P 500 on their own. We're not going to do the labor participation quite yet. Afterwards, we're going to do it. So I'm simply calling matplotlib on the default scale, y-axis scale. I'm going to put the unemployment numbers, and on the secondary axis, where I'm calling axis.twinx to open a separate y scale, I'm going to put the S&P 500. That's simple. Run that. And that's going to give us now an idea of what's going on. So you see a clear reverse relationship, right? A mirror image of in blue we have the unemployment, and in green you have the S&P 500 with this meteoric rise. And we can see that the unemployments peak usually at some kind of market crash. This is the market crash of it looks like 2000. Here, this is the market crash. This was a brutal one in 2008. And look at here how the unemployment numbers are at the highest. Now we're at the lowest, so let's check. This is the whole point of this video here. We're here, so we definitely have less unemployment than we did in the in late 90s. And indeed, look at that. We have to go all the way back to the last time it was this good was it was hard to see, but let's say 1970 or something like that, right? So it's true what they're saying in the news. Look at that. We're here today. That's where we were in the 70s. So phenomenally low unemployment. Okay, so we got that one checked. Let's keep going. So now we're going to kind of, it goes too far out. We're gonna cut it. So let's cut it to 1980, just so we can see, we can focus on this price action right here. So same chart, except we're basically zooming in. And here again, we see now from 1980s, we kind of see the mirror image, and we can clearly see that we are, in this period, we are hitting some new lows, right, of unemployment and new highs in the S&P 500. This is interesting here. One thing here. So actually, I'm glad because we're going to actually use the percentage change. I forgot if we use it in this script or not. We are using it. So I'm taking the percentage change, and we're going to apply a moving average. We're going to smooth it a little bit because the percentage change is very very erratic. It goes all over the place. We're going to smooth it 50 periods. I mean, we're going to take 50 periods of data, take that average, and use that value. Move it one price up. Take that 50 period average and use that value. So it's going to be a lot smoother. And so that's what I'm going to do on one scale. Then I'm also going to do some kind of coloring scheme. So basically, I'm saying whenever the percentage change hovers around the zero line, right? If the changes went up, it's going to be a positive number. If it went down, it's going to be a negative number, right? That's how the percentage change work, and it hovers around zero. So we're saying if it's above zero, we're going to assign it to this list, positive list. If it's below zero, the change to a negative list, and then we're going to call the matplotlib axis xvline function, and we're going to say whenever you're in this list, the index is in this list, we're going to paint it a blue vertical line. Whenever it is below, it's going to be a red vertical line. We're literally going to be drawing a background color for each line, each vertical line. And we're going to plot, the percentage change of the employment numbers and the S&P 500. So here you see again, we kind of see, the peaks and the troughs that you'd have with the market ups and down. What's interesting here, when you smooth it, is you clearly see, what I think is interesting, is that unemployment, these low numbers don't last forever, right? They always come back up. And high unemployment numbers don't last forever either, which is good, and they come back down. So you have this very clean up and down movement, right? So keep that in mind. You know where I'm going with this, right? That here, we had a high. 2008 was brutal in terms of unemployment. I'm going to touch about that, and I'll touch this topic in a second. And here again we go back. But look, when you smooth it, the percentage change, it looks like it's slowing down, right? So could it be coming up? I don't know. So this is kind of why we have to look at these kind of numbers on a regular basis. Is critical. Okay, so now let's bring in the labor participation, what we talked about before. And I'm bringing it in. This is very similar. We change a date to a date time. I'm taking the percentage change again, and now we're going to plot just the labor participation with the S&P 500, without looking at the unemployment numbers, just to kind of compare them. And here it is true. Look at that. A lot of participation in labor. It looked like we peaked around, let's say, 2000. And this is one thing that people are saying, that maybe the two recessions we had, right, the two market crashes in 2000 and 2008, hurt the economy. A lot of people who tried to get jobs kind of maybe gave up on getting jobs, and that's why the labor participation, they kind of removed themselves from that and never came back. And now we're kind of going flat. So it's not like we are dropping. According to this chart, at least, we're not dropping. It's just kind of flat, kind of anemic. These workers that used to be here didn't come back into the labor market, which is very interesting. And finally, altogether, so here's our final product. As you can see, it's quite an interesting chart. A lot of things going on. We clearly see the S&P 500, going up to its new phenomenal heights. This is not adjusted for inflation. Keep that in mind. We see in blue phenomenally low unemployment numbers, something we haven't seen in 50 years. So definitely low. Well, but what's interesting here is we're overlaying it with a labor participation is also at its lowest in the same period, which is interesting. Though it's not getting lower in the past. It looks like the past 5 years it hasn't gone low. It kind of meanders in this level. So there is a great source, and I put the article there from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. They're saying recessions tend to push labor force participation down relative to its potential, an effect that lingers for several years even after they end. In CBO's judgment, the recovery of the labor force participation following 2007-2009 recession has been especially slow. And I have a few charts I can show you. Here you clearly see, right, this is the job loss that we had in the 2000 crash was not as bad as the one we had in 2008, 2010. I actually got laid off in this period. A lot of us got laid off. It was just a brutal time. If you were working with a shaky company, a company that didn't have strong finances, you had a high probability of being laid off. This is another great chart here I want to show here, is the gross domestic product potential compared to the actual GDP. And it shows how the 2008 recession really hurt us. It happened here. Here is the potential GDP, right? Kind of like a linear line of what we should be doing, and how a recession really hurt us. And it took many years. We're just finally crossing it around 2018. We finally crossed that line where we're back to our normal GDP. Another great resource, if you're interested in these questions, is the Congressional Budget Office. And I'm going to read a few, and they have 10, 20 reasons why the labor participation hasn't gotten back to its normal level. Is stuck here. It says Since 2000, the labor force participation of people without a college degree has declined, but the effect on that decline on the overall labor force participation rate is lessened because the share of the population without a college degree has decreased. So it's going to say that people who kind of who may been have been hurt in one of these recessions without a college degree then get back into the labor market or just gave up. Between the end of recession and 2015, however, the rates fell by 2% points from 83 to 81%. Although the rate inched up slightly in both 2006 and 2017, it is likely to stay about the same between 2018, so right around here, and 2027, the CBO estimates. So they're thinking that we're going to be stuck in this for quite a while. So definitely, I'm just reading a few snippets I read. Go through those two resources, and there's a lot of people who love to speculate about this stuff of what's going on. The key is get the data, roll up your sleeves, and get your own information. So finally, I want to end this video by making an announcement. Once a week now, I am going to go through a few charts of what I thought was interesting during the week. So for example, always start with the S&P 500, not looking at a daily action, more like looking at a weekly or monthly action. I kind of want to take a big picture and show you this. For example, what was interesting this week were the unemployment numbers, the VIX starting to inch higher into the teens. That was interesting. The inverted yield, that's interesting. So kind of go through a few charts, talk about it, and I think in a few weeks, if I can get this running and there's interest, I'll also do them live where we can interact with people. So please give it a thumbs up.